So can you share some strategies in building trust and with buyers and reducing skepticism?
So the one thing is, I always tell people, especially trust. Let's talk about trust. Now, I'm going to be very tactical with trust because everybody talks about trust. They're like, make them feel comfortable, listen empathetically. But let's kind of define trust with three components. This is how I define trust. It's POV, SME plus BIIM, right? Sounds complicated. Yeah, I know. Sounds complicated, but it's not. First part is you have to take their point of view, right? So you got to know where the customer's at. This is where the quality of the questions matter. What questions I ask you, Jim, as you're talking to me for the first time about the product you're looking to buy or the service you're looking to buy, I'm going to ask you questions. And the quality of the questions will determine what type of answers you give me. Mm-hmm. I will then listen to those wonderful answers you've given me. And then as a good salesperson, I'll parrot back what you said, because what I've heard, I think what you said. And then I'll say, and I also want to say, is this what you're trying to do? Is this what you really want? This is your endpoint. Customer going to say, yeah. Boom. He understands me. Step number one, complete. Step number two, SME, subject matter expert. You have to position yourself as a subject matter expert. Now, I just said that the buying customer is at least 90% into the buying cycle, right? Mm-hmm. Which means they know a lot. They've done some research. So to position yourself as a subject matter expert, you have to provide not information. They don't want that. They want insight. And I've defined insight as information beyond the obvious. Mm-hmm. For example, if I'm talking to an expert in, the product or service, I want that person to tell me things I didn't know or didn't consider. Yeah. Unconsidered is like, wow, I didn't think about that. I didn't know you can do that. Yeah. Once you're having that type of conversation, you've positioned yourself as an expert.
That's right.
All right, so let's rewind the tape, Jim. So I take their point of view. I position myself as an expert based on the dialogue and the questions I'm asking. Yep. By the way, emphasize again, quality of the questions determine how people view you. Yeah. And if I do that right, if I know what you wanted because I've empathized with you, I've pretty much positioned myself as an expert, which means you might want to listen to me. When I get to the BIIM, the third variable here, keep their best interest in mind. BIIM, best interest in mind. In other words, when I look at a customer and I'm putting a proposal together, I've listened. I am also the expert. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Mm-hmm. And studies have found that what customers want is for you to advocate. Listen, I want people to listen to this. Customers want you to advocate a position, recommend something. Yeah. The data is stark on this one. And
I'm that kind of consumer. I look to the pro or to the what I perceive as the pro, usually the person selling, and to say, well, mm-hmm. Here's my problem. You come up with the solution or help me to come up with the solution. So I completely agree with that. That's that finding.
It reminds me of, I use this joke in my seminars, it's almost like if you had to go get brain surgery, right? And so the neurosurgeon comes out and says, all right, Jim, I got three options, man. I can come from underneath your chin, from the right side of your face, or the left side of your face. What do you like to do, Jim? What do you think? You're like, I don't know. You're the expert. You tell me.
Exactly.
No, we as salespeople do that to customers. Well, here are three options. What do you think?
Right.
They want you to go, based on what you've told me, because I've listened, took your point of view, based on my subject matter expertise.
Yep. Here's
what I would recommend.
That's and sometimes it's just that simple. And and so many times that customer will go, great, write me up, or let's do the deal. Or, just because they need that confirmation or validation from you to say, I'm going to take good care of you. This is the particular one that you should buy or lease or rent or whatever the case might be. Yeah. Right?
You bring up an interesting point. You just triggered me because customers typically want three things from you, especially when they're in that last mile, right? Ready to make a buying decision. They want to come to you for clarification. Can you explain this to me? I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
So it's clarification. They want confirmation. So it does do this. It does have that, right? Yes. And then the third part, the component we've talked about, is confidence. That's where you advocate. I would recommend this. And by the way, the most powerful recommendations have a because. I would recommend this because, or here's why.
Right. And it's interesting that you can't make that recommendation unless you have spent some time listening from that, to listen to that consumer, that customer, to really learn what their objective is and what their issues are and what kind of a problem they have that you can help them with. If you jumped right into it and said, hey, welcome into my store, here's what I'd recommend for you, then they would lose confidence in you, right, as a sales professional or a subject matter expert, because they go, you didn't even ask me any questions, so how do you know that's the best remedy or the best choice for me without talking to me first, right?
And more important, listening, just really understanding. That's why the parroting, when you look at point of view, it's asking great question. It's listening, but parroting back, but then asking, basically making a clarification statement. So based on what you're telling me, this is what you're looking for.
Right.
Is that right? And by the way, just when you ask that question, this is what you're looking for, the person goes, yes. That creates that forward momentum. That's a small commitment.
That is.
It's not about trying to. It's not about trying to get a bunch of yeses. It's about being on the same page, lined up.
That's
and
right.
I think salespeople tend to, as you've pointed out, they speed through that because they're so anxious to present their product or service. And there's that one phrase that we like to use. In order to speed up a sale, you got to slow it down. So slow it down to speed it up. In other words, take your time at the beginning and you'll close deals faster.